Okay, I want to continue talking about this example just a little bit. Well, so far we have done two conditions, and under the two conditions there are three possible branches or three possible paths. Okay, well, this code is okay, but I'm not 100% happy with the code. Okay, and I'm gonna explain why. And think about that. The only case I'm gonna do barbecue is it's not rainy, plus at the same time the temperature is greater than 60, right? So that is the only condition I'm gonna do barbecue. Okay, so let me just comment out this code, and I want to do something even shorter. So in this case, how about I just use the logic operators? Say if rainy equals false and temp is greater than 60, and then I do can barbecue equals true, and else can barbecue equals false. Okay, how about this version? So in this version, I really try to follow and understand the logic, and the logic is simple. I have to meet both conditions. It is warm and not rainy in order to do a barbecue, and that is the only possible case that I can do barbecue, right? So I put those two conditions together in the if and connect them with the and. And then, well, I compress the logic a little bit. I don't have to do a nested or chained. I can simply use the AND operator to combine the logic a little bit to make it easier to code. So, well, just now we have already done a nested version, and we also have done a chained version. But eventually, if we better understand the logic, well, we can do a simple if and else, and then we put two conditions together, combine them into one condition, and join them with an and. Okay, so well, I'm pretty happy with this word personally. Okay, so let's come back to our lecture notes. And the next part we want to talk about is, well, the Python modules. Well, Python as a programming language itself is cool. And a even better thing is, well, if you are trying to find some of the functionalities, and remember that you don't always have to code that by yourself. And random numbers should be a good example. And when you are coding, and sometimes you may want to generate one or more random numbers, like you want to simulate a coin toss, for example. And luckily, there is already a Python module built in to Python, so you don't have to invent the view again. So what does that mean? So you don't have to reinvent the view, which means if someone has already done the work, you go ahead, you use that work. You don't have to do that work again. So if you know in Python there is a random module which can help you generate random numbers, you should make use of that module instead of writing some complicated or super fancy random number generators by yourself. Okay, so well, for the random module, well, this is something you have not seen for now. So that is the import. To include a module into the current working file or project, and you have to do a import and then the module name. And the module name for the random number generator is called random. So you have to put this part in your code in order to include the random module. And after that, well, here is one thing we can use, and that is random.runInt. So for the runInt, it takes two values, and in Python we call them two parameters, and a and b. And if we want to use a random number generator to generate a random integer between a and b, with a and b both included, and then you can do random dot randint. So random is the module name, and then dot randint, that is a method name. Well, we are going to talk about that later in 131 and probably even more in 231. And then you send two values or two parameters, and that is the lower bound and the upper bound. And remember, for the lower bound and the upper bound, they can be included in the random numbers generated. Okay, so in this case, if I want to simulate five random numbers, like 5 die tosses, and then, well, for each die toss we are going to get a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So I'm going to generate a total of 5 numbers, and all the numbers should be random but in the range between 1 to 6, 1 included and 6 also included. And then this is the code. And by the way, well, pay attention to this notation. So if I'm using the square brackets of the A and B, this means that is a range with the upper bound and the lower bound both included. Okay? And here is an example. Well, if I want to simulate a coin toss, how can I do that? So for a coin toss, we can do either a true or false, but we have only a integer generator. And then how about we have a integer generator which give us either a 1 or a 0. So 1 can mean if 1 can mean a head, and then 0 can mean the tail. How about that? So in this case, I'm going to do a random.randint, and then this will give me a 1 or 0. Okay, and remember, well, last lecture we talked about the integer values. Non-zero integer values will be taken as a true. Do you remember that? We have that in the last lecture. So all the non-zero values, if we evaluate that as a Boolean, all the non-zero values will be true. Okay, so if random.randint gives us a 1, we go to the first branch, we print head. Otherwise, we will go to the else and then print a tails. Okay, so we are making use of the random.randint, and we are also making use of the trick that all the non-zero values will be evaluated as a true. Okay, so well, another question is, what if I want to have float numbers instead of integer numbers? And well, luckily in random module we also have that, and that is the random.random parentheses. And in this case, we don't want to send any value in the parentheses, and it by default will give me a random float number between 0 and 1. And pay attention to that. So square bracket means the lower bound, 0, will be included in the possible range. And then how about 1? 1 is a parenthesis. So parenthesis means the upper bound, 1, will be excluded. So for this function, for this method, random.random, you are going to get a random float number. It is possible that you get 0, but it's impossible for you to get the 1. Okay? So after today's lecture, and then you will be able to do those sections of the CS circle questions. And well, we are going to post an in-class exercise. And by the way, here is a nice trick you can also possibly do. Well, just now we know that random.random will give you a float number between 0 and 1, right? If you want to get a random number in a different range, for example, -3 and -2 to 3, that is an even wider range. And how do you do that? And then we can make use of this trick. So feel free to read this by yourself and try this by yourself. And I'm going to post another video talking about the exercise.